Hello, my name's Galena. I'm the fiancé of Joshua Lee McCollister, who was murdered on July 8th by Deunn Willis and robbed by Danielle Durand. I had a really bad dream last night. I was sitting in the bathtub at my parents' house, and the water was like up to here. There was a cup that had this beautiful, loving message from Josh on it, on both sides that I was looking at. And while I was looking at it, it occurred to me, I'm about to have a grand mal seizure. I'm about to pass out, fall back in the water, and drown. This is something that happened to me when I was 15 in that bathtub. I almost drowned in it during a grand mal. And the bathtub was draining a little bit in the stream, and it wasn't draining fast enough. So I managed to stick my toe in the, to make it drain faster. And I was thinking while I was passing out, well, I might die right now. I wonder if it's going to drain enough that I'll actually survive. And I know why I had this dream, because the pharmacy didn't fill up my epilepsy prescription in time. And if I miss one dose, I can have a very bad grand mal. I can go into status epilepticus. I almost died in status epilepticus one time. They were just barely able to bring me out of it. So, you know, this wasn't cryptic. And also, it wasn't cryptic because the last time the pharmacy messed up on my medication was just a few days before Josh died. And he asked me if I wanted him to come back to Mendocino County to take care of me. He knew he was so good at taking care of me during seizures like that. And I told him no. To not come back. Don't come back. Because I thought that if he came back to take care of me during a grand mal seizure, they'd murder him. And because he didn't come back, Deunn Willis and Danielle Durand killed him instead. I knew when I got my medication refilled, because it's refilled every 3 months, I knew it was going to be hard, traumatic, and I was going to think about the last time I got my meds filled. How I told Josh not to come back. But I have seen nothing in the last few months to make me think that I was wrong when I told him to not come back. One of the things the instigator has done to me repeatedly since Josh died, he plays this song, he blasts it at me. And the lyrics are effectively, "Only the good die young." I'm a bad man, I'm a real bad man. You should have pulled the trigger when you had the chance. When he'd found out that Josh had died, I was the one that told him. And he was happy. He was happy. He said something to the effect of, "Well, now Josh McCollister can't kill me." And I kind of wailed, because sobbed, because Josh wasn't trying to kill him. He was trying to get away from him. He left the county months ago trying to get away, trying to find a way for us to get away. You know, when I was a kid, someone told my dad, and he told me that epilepsy is an illness wherein you have to make peace with the fact that you might die at any minute. And you have to think of things from that perspective. So when I was recording last night, I thought, should I tell my audience that I don't have my medication and I might go into status epilepticus tonight? And I said, no, that's not the note I want to go out on. And I spoke instead about good, godly things about Josh's death. Now I do have my medication, so it's a moot point. Josh was a deeply spiritual person. He was also a reincarnationist. That was part of his faith and is part of mine. We had a discussion about reincarnation once. I thought maybe I'd share that. What his belief was regarding all of this. You gotta remember that Josh loved the instigator so much at one point. That was like brother in all but blood, essentially. He admired him, respected him. He thought the entire world of this person. And even after his ribs were broken, for a long time Josh wanted the best for the instigator. He really did. He never spoke to him again after February. He said he would never speak to him again. He told the instigator that over Skype, and I saw it in February. But it wasn't until Josh really understood the full scope of things that the instigator had done to me coercively that he really hated him, and he really changed his mind, that there was just no going back on this friendship. But once upon a time, they were best friends. And then Josh kind of came to this conclusion that the instigator was effectively a dark entity, as it were, a just dark soul. I guess that's a better word. A trickster that for some reason or another he'd had to come up against. I think the belief is that you will come up against an obstacle repeatedly until you learn to overcome it. And that was Josh's hope, that he would never have to encounter this soul ever again. Not on the other side, not in another life. He just didn't want to ever meet with him again. He didn't want me to ever have to meet with him again. That was Josh's hope. That after all this that we'd endured, all the violence, we'd just never see him again. Now, I've been told that the instigator is now clean. He's off meth. And I want to believe it. I've been lied to so much about this, it's hard for me to believe it, but I want to believe it. Still, I don't think that this is a message that he is capable of hearing, but maybe if I had gone into status epilepticus last night, maybe this is something that he could hear after having a few years of sobriety. I agree with Josh. Like, you know, in terms of what I would want from the greater spiritual side of all this, saying this as a rabbi who believes in reincarnation, I don't want to encounter you again. You know, there was no reason to hurt us this badly. We loved you, both of us. I once thought you were the best human being I ever knew. And you hurt me so badly. You surrendered yourself to drugs and to alcohol and those other two addictions, which I can't I feel sick to even talk about. You ruined my life for no reason. You ruined my life, you ruined your best friend's life for no reason. I don't ever want to encounter you again. Just like Josh said, not on the other side, not in another life. I don't want to see you again. You know, when I try and think of the concept of forgiveness, that's all I can really think, because Josh didn't wish ill on this person. He just wished to be gone. And that's really what I think about all this too. I just wish to be gone. And I know that the place that Josh is, it's not a place the instigator will ever see. That I am sure of. I want to be in a place when I die that the instigator never sees. Because he didn't need to hold me hostage like this. There was no need for it at all. Like, I asked him at one point, how much money would it have taken for him to let me go back in January? Just let me go and be with the man I loved. Like, if I had been rich and he could have had that precious money that he wanted so bad, how much would it have taken for him to let me go? And the figure that he came up with, I think, was $100,000. And then he laughed at me because he knew I didn't have anything like that. But that's how much he would have wanted. You know, you can't imagine how triggering that is for people like me and Josh to hear that. Josh had been sold. And, you know, he asked me one time how much my father sold me for. He was the only person in my life that was brave enough to ask a question like that. You can't talk to people that have been through what Josh was through and what I was through about how much money it will take to let us go. He told me once, the instigator did, I could have Josh McCollister, I could go be with him. And then he told me what I would have to give up. I could only have the man I loved if I was willing to sleep in the streets with him. Everything, every single thing I owned, I had to give up. And also, my children. Instigator dragged them into this. He made so many crappy complaints to CPS trying to see my children taken away from me. I once had to do an interview for an hour and a half with CPS in Fort Bragg because I had changed my kid's dentist appointment date. Everything I loved, I had to give up. I lost friends that I'd had for decades because I was with Josh McCollister. Because that person took lies to them. Because he wanted me isolated, because a woman who's isolated is easier to control. He destroyed my life, and it wasn't necessary at all. I would have done anything to make him happy if he gave me my freedom. That's all I wanted. It's all Josh wanted. Josh said he was going to regret all of this. And that wasn't a threat. It was just knowledge. You can't do this to the people that love you and eventually not be lonely. 3 years from now, if he's still sober, I hope he sees this video and he debates whether or not Josh McCollister dead because of things he did is something he's proud of. And I hope he debates whether or not doing this to a woman who just wanted her freedom was worth it.